Salam Dissenters, and welcome to Sada Says. This Thursday brings a full moon in Leo, while the sun is in the sign of Aquarius. This time asks us to look at our talents and see how they can bring us closer to our life goals. In order to manifest what we truly desire, we have to offer ourselves and the gifts we possess to the people around us. Now is a great time to not only meditate and connect with our inner thoughts, but also offer our talents, whatever they may be, with the promise of nothing in return. Through serving others and contributing to the greater good, we can all become more in tune with who we are and attract what we truly desire. And now, let's turn it over to Nicole for this week's Dumb Law.
On today's episode, we are so lucky to have Dustin Powers, or as many of you may refer to him as Future 4200. And like many of you, Good Life Gang leader and open source fanatic, Dustin Powers is in love with cannabis. After dropping out of college, Dustin has gone on to pioneer multiple breakthroughs in the industry. From beginnings of ethanol extractions to pesticide remediation, he's made a name for himself as a guy who gives out knowledge for free, a model he learned while working directly under Gray Wolf of Skunk Farm, notoriety for 18 months. After 3 years and several hundred consulting jobs, he started future4200.com to enable more people to freely access and distribute cannabis processing knowledge. His latest endeavor, the Good Life Gang, a membership discount club built on the permaculture principles for cannabis processors, is making waves in the industry by empowering its members to level up together. The Good Life Gang has become a rapidly growing community of like-minded cannabis individuals. And actually, Dustin, I have seen so many people get their start in making sense of what's going on in extraction from the Good Life Gang. So I just want to say thank you, because
Sure.
I'm a hash smoker. So you're making like everyone's hash better.
Oh yeah, and that was part of the underlying like nefarious. I'm a very selfish person. I wanted better hash, and I was like, what's the best way, like to do that? Or like, I want to live a better life. What's the best way? Is by powering up the people around me, because the better the life of the people around me, the better my life gets. So like, these all sound good to you, but that's because it's really selfish to me. And hopefully your selfish goal is like that as well. Like if your selfish goal is to make the life around the people around you better,
Right.
like same as mine, then this works really well together.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that that's something that you're continuously preaching, is that communal vibe on everything that you do, which is why I was very excited to have you here to talk about patents, because I think that's, very non-communal, right? Like
Sure. Yeah.
patents is like anti-community.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're very, open source on your ideas. And I think that that's really the reason why I wanted to have you here. And, Sheila, being one of our sponsors, one of my dear friends, is constantly asking me these questions. And I do my best to help her, because I have a decent amount of cannabis knowledge, but I feel like I need that next level in the extraction piece to fully understand what, because I mean, when she'll call me and she'll say things like, somebody's trying to, patent wax. And I'm like, well, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Because there's some things that I can wrap my head around.
Sure.
Like, that's a texture, bro. We can't patent the texture.
Right.
That's the end product, not necessarily the process.
Yeah,
it's
for
so
sure.
many things. So today we're going to talk about a patent that Sheila brought that I think is really interesting. And also just, I want to know what your opinions are on where we should go with patents in the way of manufacturing and I mean, even agriculture for that matter. I'd say at a certain point, you're now becoming quite the agriculture guy yourself on a personal level. Maybe not, as much as when you were younger, but now you're farming. You're like real farming.
Sure.
Like not just weed, like food and
yeah, trees and life. Yeah.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. So We have a patent in front of us, and I just kind of want to let the room know what we're looking at. So on December 4th of 2020, Canopy Growth obtained the rights to a nearly 20-year-old patent that had been filed by a German company called Spectrum Therapeutics. According to the document filed by the U.S. Patent Office, Canopy paid $1 for the technology. And I asked this because I was a little bit confused, and we'll learn more about that, but apparently that's just some corporate mumbo jumbo. And then on December 20th, the U.S. Patent Office issued a patent for the process for producing an extract containing THC and CBD from cannabis plant material and cannabis extracts. So they own the ability to take out THC and CBD, which that kind of boggled my mind. But then on December 23rd, they filed a lawsuit against GW Pharmaceuticals for copyright infringements. The patent application first filed by an inventor named Adam Mueller. I have no idea who this person is, and now I'm on this like tirade to figure out who is this guy who filed this patent in 2000, right? It really broadly describes the process of CO2 as a subcritical process. And I didn't fully understand, but then on the same day that Canopy received that patent, they filed a lawsuit against GW Pharmaceuticals because GW Pharmaceuticals is making Epidiolex, and Epidiolex apparently on their website is being used in this CO2 process. And so, first of all, like, can you even fucking do that? And you know, we've got a patent and trademark attorney who's confused. So here we're having a real serious conversation. But apparently, the ability to fight this would be to show whether or not we have somebody else who has used this process. And so Sheila is trying to find, has anybody fucking documented using CO2 in 2000 or two before that we could utilize in a way to protect? I mean, let's be fucking real. Only people using Epidiolex is sick kids.
Sure.
So if it goes after Epidiolex, like you're a shitty person. Like that's not something that people are using. This isn't like big tobacco. They're going after.
Well, there is issue because the damages that they're seeking is in, I didn't see the total of it. Oh yeah, no, I did. $366 million because they're selling 100 milliliters for $1,200 to sick kids. So this kind of is big pharma, milking money out of the insurance, Canadian insurance, or whoever's getting this subsidized by, so the taxpayers, they're milking the taxpayers for overpriced CBD and have been. That's what this is saying. Like, okay. And we deserve a cut of that because we're also big bad pharma and we want some of that. So it's big pharma
versus big pharma.
Give me some of your big pharma money, bud. And we'll pay our lawyers and everybody will party. Like
it's like weed Pfizer versus weed some other company.
So a couple important things here. This is specifically about CO2 extraction, which there are implications here that if this patent is able to sue for, and because this one's early, it's tricky. A lot of the ones that they've got now, I don't think will hold up in court because we have prior art. And part of my plan there was to, like, the way you properly open source thing is you get as much of the information in so that it becomes effective prior art. Like, we need to document the how, the what, the why, make sure you get lots of pictures and then disseminate it as much as you possibly can so that some big company can't come in and patent and say, you can't do ethanol extraction because we have this patent from 2019. It's like, yeah, but we've been doing this since like 2014, posting pictures on the internet, bro. What are you talking about? Like, there's plenty of precedent case precedent that shows as long as you get this out there. So we can talk more about, why companies do that, what they're doing, but we should just look into some of the specifics here. It's specifically, so this is this one, right? Sorry. Okay. All right. So yeah, this one is subcritical.
Would you be able to find, do you think, any documentation that would be able to, and I guess my bigger question is, if we found documentation for that, should they try to get the patent?
Well, the documentation, I assume, if you were able to find it, would be something that was put out into the public sphere. And that would be how you'd find the documentation, unless this reaches out into some person that knows and has some sort of way. I don't know what kind of proof you'd have other than you were out in the public demonstrating it. And so you're talking about in the current space, like forums, and then who before
Oh,
2000.
THC forums.
But like
no one was
prior
doing
to 2000, you're talking about weird little
Yeah.
imagine internet pre 2000 and the nerds that were using it. It's a very specific type of thing that I don't know. Like Wayback Machine doesn't go that far back. So other than that, you might before 2000, you probably just got stories like bullshit. You know, like before the internet existed, there was just bullshit artists everywhere.
That's true. I wonder who this person is, honestly, the Mueller.
Yeah, I know.
Mueller.
I mean, because I suppose if like imagine Jorge Cervantes wrote it in one of his books, or like one of the cannabis books mentions that, oh, some guy somewhere was using CO2, but that doesn't count as prior art. You can beat that with a patent. Just it was mentioned that someone was doing this.
Right. It would have to be like Jorge Cervantes or Ed Rosenthal. Like
full details. Here's how it goes. Here's a bunch of pictures of it. Here's what it does.
Because those are the only people that were writing.
You can't just mention it.
Right. Those are the only people that were writing about anything like that back then.
Yeah.
And having
some
books
sort of track of the history. Yeah. So that would be the other place I guess I'd scan for prior anything to that patent.
So what big picture, do you think this should be patentable? Patentable, is that the word?
Well, I mean, ethically or legally?
Ethically.
No, probably not. And the way to beat that, in my opinion, is to flood the system. Now, also,
flood the system. What do you mean?
Kind of like the forum, right? Like enable a place where ideas can be presented and propagated faster than big, slow, traditional corporations can operate, right? Like they can't keep up with the speed of the open source. And that's why big companies like Microsoft have embraced open source in a sense, in a lot of ways, and they're doing really well with it. They realize that this is a losing battle. This is costing them a lot of money in legal fees, or it will. It's about to. These two pharma companies that made $400 million profit on some crazy shit. Like, I'm glad it's with CO2 because there's probably going to be long-term repercussions of this. Now they're looking at, I bet if, depending on which way this goes, they could then issue cease and desist to anybody with a CO2 machine.
So do we feel like it is in the industry's best interest to help Canopy Growth?
See, the issue,
I say that with such inflection.
When I say that it's specifically CO2, and I'm not that concerned, I'm concerned about the precedent it may set. I haven't kept up on all the patents that there are on cannabis. If this goes through and then that sets a precedent that any like obscure patents on cannabis are now
acceptable, right?
Then that could be a problem. There could be all sorts of crazy patents out there that are before good prior art. But a lot of like the modern hash and the modern industry is based on the last 2 or 3, maybe 4 years of development that's been shared on the internet like a leaking ship, there's no sacred information that's being used at scale.
Which I'm actually, now that I'm thinking about it, you are helping the industry in such a big way by doing that, because you're making it so flood the system.
Sure.
That's flood the system, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I get it real life.
And
now.
As an individual, that might hurt some people's individual if they're not diverse and all of a sudden this thing right, there's definitely downsides, but
I mean at the same time
holistically it's healthier, like the whole industry is healthier that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you would say ethically, what would you be okay with patenting? See,
and that's where you get into it as a business owner. Well, why would I invest my money into new technology if it's just going to go right out onto the internet and anybody else can do it, and all of a sudden I can't get my money back on it because it's not worth anything? And that's a valid concern. I don't have the answer. My answer was to not build a business that's reliant on that. So instead of building a brick and mortar cannabis business, I figured this little niche where I can take all my developments and give them out for free. I don't care. Like I have all this like trap garage style making hash that we can just tweak slightly to turn into like large scale industrial, no problem. That's where we learned all this from. We just took it from other industries and broke it down. It's not like anything that is being done in cannabis anywhere is new. So that actually brings up a point I hadn't thought of. This may be a specific patent only because of the cannabis that goes in the tube, because extracting botanicals with CO2 is nothing new. That patent exists long before. So is that enough of a tweak on the patent? I guess it probably is because of all how detailed it is. I don't know. It's a tricky situation.
Would you try to patent anything that you do?
No, never. No,
Never.
And you know why? Because I think the underlying thing is you have to be a big giant company like this to even
For it to matter.
For even chase. What are you going to spend all your time chasing? You know how expensive and time consuming this is?
That's the part.
Are you here to make weed like hash, or are you here to chase patents?
That's the part that I realized, and I'm very thankful for having Sheila as a friend of mine, because that's the part that I realized is patents really don't mean anything unless you're willing to enforce them. They're only as valuable as the lawyer behind you willing to come after.
No offense, but this is all lawyer games. This is lawyers getting paid lawyers, and I guarantee you they're partying.
She won't take offense to that. She understands.
I don't hate the player ever.
No,
I question the game, but
you gotta question it. You gotta question it. Yeah, no, she does not. She understands, and it's also something that, you know, at a certain point, all legal existence is this way, right? Where it's like this highlighted word versus that highlighted sentence, and how do they conflict, and like what does the drawing show? And we get to the end, and I can't help but wonder, you know. I've always thought the biggest, there's obviously some very obvious flaws that are issues, and the dumb law that we're going to talk about today is the fact that cannabis is federally illegal. So a lot of these things in the way of getting patents on, we would think would be completely illegal, but the process is not, regardless to what it is. So the ability to sell the product is not relevant. The ability to make it happen is, when you're going through these things. And so while it being federally illegal, so like technically our ability to like own THC might not be there, but our ability to own the ability to get it out of the system or out of the plant, that is
apparently
there.
You can own the knowledge.
Apparently you can own that knowledge. But my biggest concern is so much of this was bro science. And I mean, I'm not trying to talk shit or anything, but like most of the time, I mean, yeah, I am trying to talk shit. Like, let's refrain. I am talking shit. Most of the time for like, you know, the beginning of all of this, no one knew why the fuck it was doing it. They just knew it was doing it, right? So their ability to like even fully explain a lot of this shit wasn't exactly there. Like, I remember packing columns of PVC at one point, okay? Like,
it worked.
I know it did, but like, and with a can with four butane cans on the top, where we hunker them down with these little hooks that held them down.
Pre-tapper days.
Before you even had that. And
we're the tappers.
I mean, that's safe, right? With a fucking hot pan in a backyard.
Well, you don't have any electricity around you, you're right.
Sure. And no outside maybe. And
definitely do it outside. And maybe not near neighbors.
A fun thing. I was at a friend of mine who was making, you know, some products, and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "We're trying to make a shatter." And I said, "It's too humid." And he said, "What?" And I said, "Well, my grandma taught me how to make taffy and peanut brittle, and you have to check the humidity before you make peanut brittle." And I'm assuming that this is the same science. And I didn't understand anything else, but I understood how to make peanut brittle and saltwater taffy because Gam taught me. So
nothing new.
I brought this science to them. They then went out to the Inland Empire, same day, shatter.
Nice. All right.
But I didn't understand what the fuck was going on. I just knew that my grandma taught me that this is how you make peanut brittle. So I think a lot of this stuff would even be difficult for us to fully map out if we did want to fight it.
Again, especially pre-forum days. Like now, especially in the last 5 years, let's say max, you have high-level chemists and process engineers and classically trained people.
We're getting real documents.
Fully participating and have taken our bro science and explained it, made some of their own developments, and then watched as bro science dude evolved into like legally employed bro science dude and has a big budget to play with all the different bro science, and the thing has evolved like together with them. And hey, now I got an investor and let me hire you professional engineer or chemist, because now we can take this bro science to a higher level. So that we did a lot of that. That's how my relationship with Photon started.
Really?
Yeah, I needed someone that knew
what was going on.
Yeah, because I was just bro sciencing. Like, dude, we have too much and we need to process it faster. Hydrocarbons aren't working. What the hell are we gonna do?
You're like, I need this much to get over here in this many hours.
It's like, why don't you just use ethanol? It's like, oh,
Huh.
Did it for a while. I was like, dude, I'm losing too much. It's all in the flour. How do I get out? He's like, you got to spin it. It's like, all right. So like put it in a washing machine. He's like, no. Put it in a big centrifuge. It's like, yeah,
You got
okay.
a centrifuge?
No. We went and got washing machines. I was like, yeah, whatever, bro.
You're like, fuck you.
That was bucket tech for a long time. That was like early distillate days. Like
Wow.
right when distillate became like right at the beginning.
A thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see that market going now?
Which one?
The distillate market.
Oh, that's going to be the hardest one because it's the easiest to bulk out. Like
Right.
when I can grow 100,000 acres of autoflower THC in Kansas, and I can get 2 or 3 harvests of that a year and turn all of it to distillate, I can sell it for a fraction of what anybody, scale it up, whatever. That will be the cooking oil of the industry. And it's very analogous. Can't get the word.
The same.
Sure. To cooking oil. They bleach it. They basically CRC cooking oil, and for good reason and bad reason. Well, I guess they see it both as good reason. One, you can purify a lot of the elements that might go rancid faster, even though most of that vegetable oil is on a scale of going rancid, like
right.
questionable at best. But also it lightens the color. They call it bleaching. And that in the literature and through like the American Chemist Society, which is the group that I joined, and the American Oil Chemist Society, and then I just started to go into their trade shows. I started reading their the papers and the patents that they're putting out, and I started seeing the authors, and then found out, hey, these guys are talking at this conference. So I went and talked to them, and I was like, hey, we got same thing. We got bro science, and we need real science to do, but nobody will help us because it's weed. And they're like, oh, this is great. And so they're like, you should get the American Oil Chemist book, like the intro book, and it's like bleaching and processing edible oils and fats. And it's like a guideline to CRC. And that was like the evolution of all of our refining of crude and all of this stuff, and explains and cites other literature how to build entire facilities to do exactly that. And then right along come all the hemp boys, and we're like, hey, we know how to do that.
Well, that's actually really amazing. And I guess I didn't realize that that's how that evolution happened so fucking quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like you turned around and hash was different.
That's why. And see, that
CRC and that, pretty much the year of CRC and rosin evolved kind of at the same time. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because the other day I saw Miss Rad Reefer on Instagram, and she was like shaming people for selling CRC as rosin. And I thought to myself, holy shit, people probably do that.
Mm-hmm.
People probably do that.
Yeah, that's rough.
It's happening.
It's certainly happening.
It's happening. And at a certain point, I guess my question to you is, how do you think the next couple years of evolution is going to be?
Faster and faster. The rate of technological advance with the way that humans can connect to the internet and scour the internet for all of this information at all time about all things, and we can see all the patents and everything that everybody's talking about. If you're driven, if you have like a target and it's like, okay, how do we better process hemp? It's all laid out right there on the internet for you. Right. You just got to go keyword around, get on Google Scholar, read some stuff, use some keywords. Like, it's not that difficult. You can get anywhere you want with it. And so imagine that, a billion, 7 billion fold or whatever, however many people, at least the younger part of us. And so that the way I see patents is, I understand why it is the way it is, and it's probably going to have bad results for the CO2 guys here, but this is like old world thinking. Like, and last year's old world thinking at this rate, like everything is, you got to be thinking about the future and right. Think about the future. That's ironic. The name that I can't remember why I chose, but it keeps seeming to play out. Like, it's evolving so quickly, and it's going to continue to go so fast. We feel like a lot of people are wasting a lot of time on antique methods that are going to have no
right. They're fighting for something where it's like, we're over this, moving on.
Yeah. This is what they're mad about. China is going to do as much CO2 extraction and THC as it wants. Like, right. Whenever they decide they're coming on board, then you give 2 shits about any of your patents. And right. They're wasting time and money on this when we could be doing something productive with it. So, and I think maybe not necessarily, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 30 and
35.
Okay. So give it like 5 years back behind me, 25. Before that generation has been plugged in their entire
Right,
life.
their
Right?
whole
They're
life.
a whole different experience.
Absolutely. Sada, my co-host,
Mhm.
she's 23.
Yep.
She has grown up in the
Yeah.
internet, and her and I always talk about it, how different. Like, I'm at the very beginning
Mhm.
of computers being a thing,
Right.
and she's like completely juiced in,
Well,
and like
yeah.
she's like, there's an app for that. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay. And I'm starting to have that moment where I'm like, oh, this is what it feels like.
Yeah,
This is what it feels like
so-
when you're getting old.
Exactly.
But I actually want to open the room up because this is there's a bunch of people that probably want to hear or talk with you. So I have to make sure I finish up the last few plugs on the show. Today's Golden Cock Award. Today's Golden Cock Award goes out to Canopy Growth for this and many reasons. Based on what I've read, you're trying to own cannabis and really all of the medicines that come with it. And if that's the case, then I give this cock to you a little more roughly than I usually do. And for those of you who are listening, I'm holding a rooster in my hand, and a golden rooster, you sick fucks. And today, instead of covering a prisoner, we wanted to shed light on a bill currently about to be voted for in Ohio. Not only because this needs to be passed, but because it also needs to be done in all 50 states in the country. In Ohio, Idaho, my bad. In Idaho, lawmakers are taking another crack to pass a bill that will compensate people wrongfully convicted of crimes. So if you spent time in prison, there is actually compensation available to you, which is really amazing. I didn't realize this, but 35 states in the United States do offer compensation for people who were wrongfully convicted and had to be incarcerated. There is money available to you. So if you were ever wrongfully convicted and no one ever told you that there's money available to you in state funds, please look up those informations, because currently there are 35 states that offer compensation. The following 15 states do not. So we need to pay attention to this: Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Delaware, Idaho, Kentucky, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, and Wyoming. So it's very important that we get out and we vote. And if you know anybody in Idaho and you can push that agenda item forward, please do so. This is really important. If somebody was put in fucking jail, that sucks. But if you're put in jail for something you didn't fucking do, that's the shittiest thing I've ever heard in my life. So jail sucks, but jail for something you didn't do, drastically worse. And that is the end of our episode. I just want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in, and catch us next time, sensibledissent.com. Stay dissenting, friends.
Stuffed and Stacked is a California-based print and design company focused on the cannabis industry, a print manufacturer that gets it. From seed to sale, we have hands-on experience with the products you want to get to market, and we can't wait to help you with your next project.
Thanks, Nicole. Now let's see what insight we can gain from the Queen of Stones power and magic cards. Thou shalt not let weird-ass energy penetrate the aura. You are not given a dream in your soul without the capacity to make it happen. Stop playing with your life. You've gotten through every hard thing in your life to this point.